Alright, so I'm going to run through a deck tech for this deck that I've been working on, and I'm also going to play a couple of two-man queues with it to show you how it works. So what we have here is a blue-green deck that is based around the morph mechanic, and the end game of this deck is to get a Brine Elemental in play face up. So when it's turned face up, each opponent skips their next untap step. And then we have Vesuvian Shapeshifter, which when you turn it face up, you can choose another creature, and it becomes a copy of that creature. And then you can turn it face down in your upkeep. So the goal of this deck is to get a Brine Elemental face up, and then copy it every turn with Vesuvian Shapeshifter, and then your opponent will never get an untap step. And then you can win pretty easily with 2 Brine Elementals with your opponent can't untap any blockers. We also have some Rampaging Baloths here. There's ways in this deck to just make a very large number of 4/4s, and that will also win you the game. And then we have some counter spells. We have Negates and Remands. We have some Sky Shroud Rangers and Sakura Tribe Scouts, which do the same thing. They let you tap to put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. We have Trail of Mystery, so whenever we play a morph, we can go and get a basic land out of our deck. And then whenever we turn a morph up, it gets +2/+2 until end of turn. And then I'm trying Retreat to Coral Helm in this deck, which with landfall, it lets us tap or untap target creature, and it also lets us scry 1 if we want to do that instead. So what we can do with this deck is, if we have a Rampaging Baloths and a Sky Shroud Ranger and a Retreat to Coral Helm, and I'm aware that this is 3 cards. This isn't the goal of the deck. It's just something that you can do. And you have a Simic Growth Chamber. You can tap a Sky Shroud Ranger, put the Growth Chamber into play, use the Growth Chamber to return itself to your hand, untap the Sky Shroud Ranger, and then just do it over and over again. And if you have a Rampaging Baloths in play, every time you do that, you get a 4/4. So that's not really the goal of the deck. It's just something that I put in that you can do. The real reason Retreat to Coral Helm is in the deck is because if you have Sky Shroud Ranger, you can just put all the lands in your hand into play immediately, which is helpful with Fathom Seer, which returns islands to your hand to draw cards. And it's also helpful with Trail of Mystery because you can get a decent number of basics out of your deck into your hand. And then Rampaging Baloths is just a good 6-mana threat that can end the game. It's possible that these should be Primeval Titans, but I wanted to try the Baloths because it's more resilient against removal spells. Primeval Titan can be resilient as well by getting a man land. Actually, no, I forgot to do this. I bought some Lumbering Falls to put in here, so let's go ahead and get those in. One issue with this deck is it has a lot of lands that come into play tapped. So you don't have a ton of ways to play these guys on turn 1, but since your goal with them is to get up to 6 mana, it's not super important. It is nice when you have them on turn 1, and you can play a turn 2 morph. But sometimes you would rather just play the Trail of Mystery before you play the morph anyway. Sorry. I'm a little bit sniffly today. And then, so let's look at the sideboard. So in addition to the 2 Ghost Quarters in the main deck, you have a Ghost Quarter and 3 Life from the Loams. This gives you a plan against decks like Tron and kind of Scapeshift, where you can just try and attack their mana base repeatedly. And because you have the Sky Shroud Ranger, Life from the Loam lets you ramp your mana pretty quickly. We have 3 Dispels to add to the main deck counter spells. If your opponent is countering your spells, or if they have something like Sphinx's Revelation, you can bring these in. It's also good against Atarka burn decks. A lot of their burn spells are instant, so you can stop like Atarka's Command, Boros Charm, Lightning Bolt, just bring those in. We have 3 Sagu Mauler, so against decks like Grixis Control, or even against Twin if they're boarding into the Keranos plan, you can bring in the Sagu Maulers. And then you have just a 6/6 threat that is as big as the Baloths, but instead of making tokens to be resilient, they just can't target it with anything. And then finally I have 3 Anok Survivalists, which destroy an artifact or an enchantment when you turn it face up. And I have 2 Krosan Grip. which destroy an artifact or enchantment and can't be responded to because it has split second. So those are there for Affinity and Twin, and you can bring them in against Tron as well, and just give you some ways to interact with things that you really. The deck doesn't have any main deck removal. It has negates to stop like planeswalkers, and it has remands to slow down creature decks. But really, your goal is just to try and lock them out as quickly as possible, or build an army as quickly as possible. If you're not comfortable with that, I would be fine. Like, you could run a couple dismembers in here, like cut a Bailout, then a retreat, and maybe a negate, and run 3 dismembers, just to give you a little bit of way to interact with creatures. But so far, decks that have been winning with creatures, I've been able to keep up with them on the board. Because Vesuvian Shapeshifter, like if they play a Siege Rhino, you can cast your Vesuvian Shapeshifter face up. It will copy the Siege Rhino, and then because it's face up when it enters the play, it'll copy the trigger on the Siege Rhino. So you'll have your own Siege Rhino, and then later you can turn it into something else. So like you can have a Siege Rhino in play so that they can't really attack you, and then later you play a Rampaging Bailout, copy it with the Shapeshifter, play a land, and suddenly you have a huge army against their Siege Rhino. So I'm just going to run 3 Lingering Falls, and I'm going to go put in another forest. And then we'll see if the Lingering Falls are something that we might want more of. So let's go ahead and join some 2-mans. Okay, so let's see what we're up against. We won the die roll. We will definitely play first. This hand is not bad. We have a Scout, and we have one of the lock pieces, and we have a remand. So I'm going to go ahead and keep this. If this were a breeding pool or a fetch land, that would be better, but we're still doing okay. Then depending on what the opponent does, I may just hold up remand, or I may cast Trail of Mystery. I probably don't want to play the Scout. Okay, so it looks like this is Affinity. Could also be Lantern Control. Okay, yeah, it is Lantern Control. So my game plan against this deck, game 1 is not great. I don't think we need to hold up remand on this early. Like, they can duress us or Thoughtseize us or whatever, but it doesn't really matter. Like, the only thing that I'm worried about here is if they play exactly an Ensnaring Bridge, and then that could make it a little difficult to win, and then they don't. Okay. I may need to go grab some tissues. Let's look at what they have going on. Yeah, they're just going to duress our remand. And then we can play Brine Elemental next turn and go get a basic land. Yeah, I like that plan. And then I think we want... Yeah, we want an island. Then he might have a removal spell for the Brine Elemental. So there's the Ensnaring Bridge, and he has Codex Shredder to get it back. So this is going to be a very difficult game to win. Oh, he has one in hand. Let me look at my deck again. So our plan now, I don't think we have a main deck way to beat an Ensnaring Bridge, so I'm going to concede. But we can bring in good cards. Going to take out Remand. A lot of their important cards cost 1 mana. Gonna take out a Bailiff and a Retreat. And I think that looks good. I definitely want to keep the negates. We do need to put pressure on them, even if we can kill the Ensnaring Bridge, because eventually they'll have Academy Ruins and they can just get their thing back. And they also have Codex Shredder to get it back a couple of times. So we'll see how that works out. This is not a matchup that I've played against a lot with this deck. I have played against it a fair amount with other decks. And really, if you can get your artifact removal to stick a couple of times, you have a very good shot of winning. Okay, so we have all 4 pieces of the Infinite 4/4s combo. But I'm not sure if that is what we want to be doing in this matchup. I think the Retreat to Coralhelm letting us scry is going to be good because it will let us find our artifact removal. So I'm going to keep this and try it out. I'm going to go get some tissues. Hold on, please. Alright, sorry about that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and play the Ranger on turn 1. This will let us start ramping. I'd like to draw an untapped land so that I can get this Retreat to Coralhelm into play. Okay, we're just going to pass. So it's good we did draw an artifact removal spell. It's also not a sorcerer instant, so he can't duress it because it's a creature. Okay. So he's just milling a bunch of extra scouts. Okay, so I'm going to cast Retreat to Coralhelm and then play a land. We're going to scry. And I want to find, I think Fathom Seer is the best card, but I'd also keep, do I want to keep a basic land? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with this one, which lets us do Anox Survivalist. I think we don't. I think we want to find like a Trail of Mystery or a Fathom Seer and just really leverage the scout. That's fine, we have another one. There's a Trail of Mystery down. Okay, so we drew a forest, so let's play Retreat. Let's play Forest, let's scry 1. And now I probably do keep a basic land or a mana source. So anything we put on the top, he's going to mill. So I have to decide if I want this shapeshifter or not to go in the graveyard. I think I want it on the bottom of my deck. Notice that we do need to draw another bounce land to get the combo because we had to play this as a mana source. Okay. So it looks like we're probably not drawing a Trail of Mystery this game. Okay, so that is a good draw. So let's draw some cards. Let's play put another Vesuvian on the bottom. Let's play a Morph. And let's attack. Yes. Notice that he has found the Academy ruins, so we can't really shut him down entirely unless we draw a Ghost Quarter. Pyroclasm. That's annoying, but it's not crippling. Nyx Fleece Ram. Okay. And we are probably losing this game right now, but we'll see what we draw. Negate is a good draw. Let's go ahead and draw some more cards. Tap down this Nyx Fleece Ram. Bash with our 1/3. So Retreat to Coralhelm is a combo piece most of the time, especially in other decks that use it with Knight of the Reliquary. But it also just does like random stuff, like you can scry, you can tap their blockers. So he's going to Surgical Extraction our Vesuvians. So that's our primary win condition. So we're probably on the Rampaging Bailoff's plan at this point. So we need to keep Ensnaring Bridge off the table for a turn that we can attack him. Okay, he does not have an Ensnaring Bridge in his graveyard. Spellskite is fine. Yep. Probably he will find an Ensnaring Bridge pretty quickly. Okay. I think I want to play a face down Brine Elemental. And I guess it doesn't matter which basic. So let's just go with Island. Tap Nyx Fleece Ram. So it would be good if we could draw like another artifact removal spell. We have 2 survivalists in the graveyard, which means we have 1 survivalist left in our deck, and 2 Crozen Grips. We have no negates left, but we have 1 in our hand. Actually, do we have 1? We have 1 negate left in the deck. Okay, there's a Crozen Grip. Notice that he can't respond to Crozen Grip with Spellskite, so we will be able to blow up Ensnaring Bridge unless he duresses the Crozen Grip. I believe the best play on this turn is to play Rampaging Baloths. And then next turn, we can flip up Brine Elemental, which will lock down all of his bells and shredders. This targets Lantern of Insight. Okay. The top of our deck is a Ghost Quarter, so he has to get rid of that, which he probably was planning on milling us anyway, so it's not a big deal. We have Windswept Heath, which will tap. Okay. So let's see whether he uses all these bells. Okay, so there's a Lumbering Falls, which is good to draw, but we can't play it next turn. There's a Survivalist. So one thing to note is that because we're going to lock down all of his bells and shredders, he will have to use the lantern if he wants to prevent us from drawing this Survivalist. Bash with everybody. Okay, so he's just done. Nice. Let's see. I'm going to take out a Lumbering Falls, bring in a Ghost Quarter. And then we will think, do we want Life from the Loam? And if we do, what do we want to cut? We can bring in 1 for a Trail of Mystery because they both let us find lands. Especially against a mill deck, Life from the Loam is going to be pretty good. Trail of Mystery doesn't let Fathom Seer attack through Nyx Fleece Ram, so I think I'm just going to bring in all the Life from the Loams. And then let's cut 1 Vesuvan and 1 Scout for some Dispels for Surgical Extraction. And I think that may be the only target he has, but it's really nice to counter that and keep whatever he wants to get rid of. Because we're bringing in Life from the Loam, Surgical Extraction actually has good targets, so I want to be able to protect it. This hand has Loam and a fetch land, but it's really slow. This hand is actually pretty fine, so we're going to keep this one. He also mauled to 6, so we're even here. Gonna put loam on the top. Pithing needle naming. Lumbering Falls? Okay. That's not bad. Like, Lumbering Falls is a reasonable way that we can beat him. So let's Wooded Foothills and pass. I guess we should have played Breeding Pool first. In case we wanted to negate something, we might not have to play the Breeding Pool untapped. Let's go get another Breeding Pool. See what we draw. Rampaging Balos. Okay. I'm going to play the Breeding Pool untapped. That definitely was a sequencing error. We should have played the actual Breeding Pool first. This way he knows that something is up. Nixley's Ram is fine. Like you saw last game, once we start doing our actual thing, it doesn't really stop us. Okay. Trying to decide what our game plan is to win this game. And I think we may actually be able to deny him mana. I'm trying to remember if this deck plays basics or not. Most decks play a couple. Then I've already played my land for this turn, so I'm going to wait until next turn to Life from the Loam. Because I don't want to expose it to surgical extraction. Like, he's going to mill more cards and he may hit a land that we can get back for free. Lantern of Insight. He does not want Lantern of Insight. Oh, he got one in his hand and then milled one. Okay. And see, there's the third land. So I'm going to grab all these with Light from the Loam. White and black mana. He's milled an Abrupt Decay and a Surgical Extraction. I'm trying to think what his black mana would be. Like just Duress maybe. And then white, he's already cast Nyx Fleece Ram. I'm going to go ahead and fetch a basic forest. Play a Sakura Tribe Scout. And then we may be able to pull out ahead of him due to Fathom Seer and Scout giving us advantage. Okay, so he has a Mox Opal now, so I'm going to stop going after his mana. Like, when he was just stuck on 2 mana sources, there was a possibility that we could mess him up a little. Because I wasn't sure if he had basics, it's worth gambling, especially since we're not really trying to do anything quickly here. Don't want to get back Light from the Loam. I do want to play a bunch of lands. Our library is Island. I don't think I want that. I think I want to go get a basic forest, play a face down Fathom Seer, and pass with negate up. So if he tries to play this Ensnaring Bridge, I can stop that. And my guess is he does want to play the bridge because we have 3 power in play already. let's stop that. And he probably won't mill us. He wants us to draw this island. Excuse me. But little does he know he's playing right into our hands. Because we have rampaging bailouts. Okay, so what we want to do is think. If we attack with just the Fathom Seer, he probably blocks. If we attack with both, he probably blocks the Morph. I think I want to make a 4/4 at the end of his turn and then tap down his Ram with Retreat to Coral Helm and then attack. So we're going to pass. We're going to unflip Fathom Seer at the end of his turn and then drop in a land with the Scout. Okay, so he drew Ensnaring Bridge. We couldn't cast the negate, so there's no reason to try and draw it. So how do we want to do this? I think I still want to make that play. And then he can mill us in response here. Don't want to draw Life from the Loam. I do want to draw Fathom Seer. Is Life from the Loam better than a tapped dual land? Probably not. Okay, so there's an Anox Survivalist. How do we want to do this? We can play Retreat. So tap, tap, tap for Retreat. Tap, 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 Fathom Seer. Bounce, land, negate. He's definitely going to mill this Survivalist. Okay. I guess there was a slight sequencing error there. We could have tapped his Nyx Fleece Ram. But, like, it doesn't really matter. How many guys do we have in the graveyard? We have one artifact destruction spell in the graveyard. One consideration is adding a third color to this deck, just so you can get, like, Knight of the Reliquary or Ancient Grudge, just powerful cards in here. So if we had Ancient Grudge, we'd be able to fight off this Ensnaring Bridge really well. Pithing Needle. Naming Ghost Quarter. Possibly naming Sakura Tribe Scout. So let's go ahead and do this before that comes in. Snaring Bridge is a very good Magic card. Just gonna say that. Okay, so we have assembled Infinite Beasts. So if he ever... Oh, that's interesting. We also can lock him out of untapping. Does this work? That still works when it's tapped. Some of the older artifacts retain the text that they don't work when they're tapped. I know that Howling Mine and Static Orb are two of them that work that way. So it's always worth checking when you have an artifact that's a little bit older to see if there's a way that you can tap it and shut it off. Four, 5, 6, 7, 8. Opponent has no cards in hand, so I'm going to go ahead and cast all the morphs. Just taps this because scrying does nothing. So we have negate up, and we'll probably have negate up for the foreseeable future, because the only thing that I really care about countering is Ensnaring Bridge. He mills his own Academy Ruins. Interesting. Also notice that we are super far behind on time. This deck has infinity million triggers to keep track of, so that's the thing that happens. This is one of the few decks that I have actually timed out while playing. Okay. I wish we could draw this. Let's check our mana. So we need 7 to flip this up. We have 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we can flip up both. So let's go ahead and play this. Tap the Nyx Fleece Ram on the random chance that he lets us draw the Survivalist. Turn up Vesuvan, copying Fathom Seer. I'm making him mill me now so that I can lock down his stuff. So that I can lock down his stuff when I turn up the Brine Elemental. Okay. So now basically the situation that we're in is if we ever get an artifact removal spell into our hand, the game is over and we win. And if we don't, the game is over and we probably lose. Excuse me. So we have 3 artifact removal spells left in our deck. He has 1 bell, 2 bells, and a lantern. So the first 2 he will mill with bells. This last one he will shuffle away, and then hopefully we can draw it. Okay, so he's going to get an untap. Okay, so he has to stop us from drawing this if he wants to untap. The game is over. Okay, so we drew an artifact removal spell and we won. So you saw how like the Vesuvian Shapeshifter stuff works. Copy Fathom Seer, copy Brine Elemental. Let's go ahead and play another one. Sweet. Hopefully we don't end up playing against the same person. Like, obviously the matchup is winnable, but I would like to have some variety in my videos. Just, I think it's a better experience for the audience, and it's more fun for me to play against multiple different decks. So let's talk about adding red. What we would get from adding red would be mostly Ancient Grudge. You can also run some other morphs, but red doesn't really have great ones. Like, I had some Gathan Raiders in here, but I cut them for the retreats. Gathan Raiders plus Trail of Mystery, you can get a pretty big guy pretty quickly. But what red does offer is very strong sideboard options between Ancient Grudge and Crumble to Dust, and then various like Pyroclasm, Anger the Gods type sweepers. Red has some good sideboard cards. So the person that we just played against does not want to play against our deck again. Probably because they don't really want to figure out how to sideboard against it. Is that the same person? I don't remember. So we will play first. We're going to mulligan. We're going to mulligan again. And I guess we'll keep this. Bottom anything that's not a land. I really hope this is not the same guy. It's the same guy. Great. Okay, well, I'm going to try and win this. Honestly, I could just concede the first game because, as you saw, our sideboard cards are very important for this. Yeah, I'm just gonna concede before he looks at my deck and knows we didn't change anything. So let's bring in all the same stuff. I think just one dispel is enough. Trim the same way. What else did we take out? I want to keep all the brine elementals. I guess I just want to keep the stuff that's good against Ensnaring Bridge. If nobody else is playing the queues, then I'm just going to be done with 2 videos, so you will have a good idea of how the match works against Lantern Control at least. Deck is not liking us. This is a pretty poor hand as well, but I'll keep it. Play the Lumbering Falls first, so if he has a Pithing Needle, he doesn't save it for Ghost Quarter. Excuse me. Then we can maybe Ghost Quarter his Academy Ruins. Duress us. Yeah, that works too. Take a good look at how garbage my hand is, sir. What I want to draw now is like a Crows and Grip or a Shapeshifter. Like, he plays the Inquisition, he sees the coast is clear, he plays Ensnaring Bridge, and we have an answer for it. Life from the Loam is not terrible. Once again, if he gets stuck on land, we'll use Ghost Quarter. If he hits his mana, we won't try and cripple him. Okay. Okay. Yeah, we're probably dead here. I don't know why it flips these every time. So we can actually use his Lantern and our Ghost Quarters and Loams to make it so he never draws an Ensnaring Bridge. And I think that that's amusing enough to me that I'm going to try and make it happen. We can also try and make sure he never draws a land. Yeah, let's try and make sure he never draws a land. I believe that is a different forest than he had before, but we're gonna blow it up anyway, because I'm not sure how many forests he can possibly run. I think 3 would be a reason. Ooh, that is the same forest. Okay, well, let's go ahead and draw both of these Ghost Quarters again and see if that's enough for him. I don't want him to draw Ancient Stirrings because it's basically another land. So what's going to happen here is he's going to mill himself to try and get a land on the top, is my guess. He's going to mill us. He wants... Okay, good to know about. He has a game plan that I would like to see him try and execute because I want to know what it is. Did he mill the Pyroclasm? Okay, he milled the Pyroclasm. So we have a couple options here. We can cast a Morph and start applying pressure. Or we can hold up Negate. But because he's only going to have access to 1 mana, next turn I think I want to go ahead and start applying pressure. There's a possibility he's holding a Mox Opal. Okay, so he's going to Pithing Needle Ghost Quarter. So we have set him back several turns with this plan. And just we were both drawing cards. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to see if our 4 lands is better than his 1 land. And it may not be because... because a lot of his spells cost 0 mana or 1 mana. So if he has another Pyroclasm here, that's pretty bad for us. But again, he's got to draw mana for it. So he'll have Tendo Ice Bridge and Blackcleave, so I guess he does have the mana. But we'll see. And then depending on what he does, we'll decide whether we attack with Lumbering Falls or try and just hold Negate up. Because we get to see what he draws. We don't know what was in his hand before. It's possible if we had been paying attention we would know his hand. But when I'm just playing 2-mans, I don't keep that kind of detailed logs. So here's a Mox Opal. And he did mail our Baloths. Okay, so he's going to take our Negate. So we're just going to attack with Lumbering Falls. If he resolves an Ensnaring Bridge here because of the Welding Jar, it's going to be almost impossible to beat it. I don't think I want Light from the Loam. I don't really want the Sky Shroud either, but we'll take that. Okay, too bad we can't draw that. So this is where we see, does he have Ensnaring Bridge? Remember, we did shuffle one of them away with a Ghost Quarter. Okay, there's an ensnaring bridge on top. So I think we lose this game. Life from the Loam is better than a basic island, but I don't want to mill an artifact destruction spell. So we would have. So he can probably mill it anyway. Yeah, this is pretty rough. We're very close. If we can wiggle out from under this anyway, we will be able to kill him. Notice that Pithing Needle shuts off his Ghost Quarter as well, so he cannot use it to destroy our Lumbering Falls. Enoch Survivalist lets him regenerate, and I'm pretty sure Crows and Grip does as well. Actually, Crows and Grip is split second, so Welding Jar will not stop Crows and Grip. So I guess we do still have an out. Let's go ahead and play Foothills, Ranger. Copy Ranger. Getcha. Bet you didn't think we'd be able to attack. And so if we draw this retreat, we can put our entire... Okay, he does not want us. There's another Survivalist. Survivalist is not really what we want to be drawing, though, because of the Welding Jar. His Academy Ruins is not in the graveyard, so I still want to keep track of his graveyard. We have milled one Fathom Seer. He can have all the Welding Jars he wants. Our out is still Crows and Grip, which will kill him. Okay. Let's go ahead and just cast this guy. Yep, got nothing. You got nothing, I got nothing, everybody got nothing. Why can't I not? Is he summoning sick? He's not summoning sick. I would like to use this ability. Okay. Did he Pithing Needle this? Very confused. this one only works as a sorcery? Okay, it does. Interesting. This one does not only work as a sorcery. Okay, I no longer care about his graveyard. We will pop his graveyard back out if he plays Academy Ruins. I know he has Codex Shredders, but he doesn't have the mana for them. Our deck is still pretty live. We've got a bunch of Fathom Seers, all our Crows and Grips, which is actually just 2, but still all of them. So he's going to maybe kill our Scouts. Okay, so now if we draw Crows and Grip, we don't immediately have lethal. I'm gonna draw Life from the Loam and just get back a bunch of fetch lands. Do we have 3 fetch lands in the yard? We do not. So let's go ahead and crack this. There's a Fathom Seer. So this is a situation where it's kind of annoying to not have the expensive fetch lands, Misty Rainforest and everything, because we have islands left in our deck, I'm pretty sure, but we can't get them with our fetch lands. But we're still going to use these to shuffle to try and hit Crows and Grip. Like, we're pretty locked here, but if we concede, then we lose the match. And I'm not going to shoot another video anyway, so I'm just going to keep playing. And on the off chance that we hit a Crows and Grip and kill him, so he's going to mill this Crows and Grip. Have 10 cards in our deck. 9, 8, 7. So we have one more turn. If this matchup was more of a thing, we could run Gaia's Blessings in the sideboard or even main deck, and then he would only be able to kill us with Spell Bomb. But like, you can see that this matchup just entirely revolves around Ensnaring Bridge. If we can get rid of the bridge, they just have no way to deal with everything else. So that was a couple of matches against Lantern Control with the deck. Like I said, you can think about adding Dismember if you're worried about creatures. You can add Ancient Grudge if you're worried about artifacts. These Sagu Maulers in the sideboard are really not impressive. Like, they're okay in some matchups, like I would bring them in against Tron and Jund, but those are probably the weakest in the sideboard. So if you wanted to cut like 3 Sagu Maulers, 1 Survivalist, 1 Dispel, 1 Ghost Quarter, or move the Ghost Quarter main, then you can open up a lot of sideboard space. So I'm going to experiment with a couple other colors in this deck, and then I'll get back and see if it's better or worse or whatever. Thank you for watching.